Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be looking at U.S. elections.
Ooh.
And specifically, we're going to be tackling the Electoral College.
Oh, okay.
The system that, decides who becomes president.
Right.
So get ready to learn how a candidate can become president.
Yeah.
Even if they don't win the popular vote.
Exactly.
Pretty interesting stuff, right? We're going to be using some really great sources today. We've got USA.gov,
Wow.
the New York Times, The Guardian,
Nice.
and Yahoo News.
Wow. A lot of good sources.
Yeah, so we're going to be drawing from all of those sources. And one of the things that I learned that really surprised me
What's that?
is that the electors, the people who actually choose the president,
Right.
they're not just everyday people.
What?
Yeah, they're often political figures,
Huh. I always thought it was just like
a room full of people.
just like random people.
Yeah,
Nice.
and then also this whole winner-takes-all system where a candidate can win a state by just like
Like a tiny bit.
51%.
51%, and they get all the votes.
All the electoral votes.
Crazy.
Yeah, so we're going to be unpacking all of that.
I can't wait.
And it turns out this is not like a new thing.
Really?
This has been debated for like over 100 years.
Wow. Over 100 years.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
So let's get started.
Okay.
First, let's talk about the basics of voting.
Sure.
So anyone who is eligible can vote.
You have to be 18.
Right. And a U.S. citizen
Right.
and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
You can find that information on USA.gov. And, you don't have to vote along party lines.
Oh, really?
No, you can vote for whoever you want.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that.
So you can be like a Republican.
And vote for a Democrat.
Yeah. Interesting.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that's the basics of voting.
Okay.
Now let's get into the Electoral College.
All right. Let's do it.
So the Electoral College is not a school. I know, it sounds like a school, right?
It does.
It's actually a system of electors
Okay.
who represent states.
Right.
And they're the ones who actually choose the president.
So they're like team captains or something?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like each state has its team captain
Right.
and they speak for the state
Exactly. And each state has a certain number of electors
based on population.
based on population. Exactly.
So like California has a lot of electors.
California has the most.
Right, because it has a lot of people.
Exactly.
So it's not just that the person who gets the most votes
Wins.
automatically wins.
Right. It's whoever gets the most electoral votes.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So let's talk about how that actually works.
Okay, so walk me through it.
So it's this winner-take-all system.
Right, we were talking about that before.
So the candidate who wins the most votes in a state
Gets all the electoral votes.
gets all of that state's electoral votes,
Even if it's close.
even if it's super close.
Wow. Are there any exceptions to that?
Yeah, there are actually two exceptions.
Okay.
Maine and Nebraska,
Interesting.
they do things a little differently.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's winner-take-all.
Gotcha.
And so the magic number is 270
Out of...
out of 538.
Okay.
That's the number of electoral votes needed to win the presidency.
So you got to get to 270.
That's the goal.
And then what? You're president?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So the timeline goes like this.
Right.
We have election day.
Uh-huh.
Everyone votes.
Right.
Then in December, the electors cast their votes.
Okay.
Then in January, Congress counts and confirms those votes. And then finally, the new president is inaugurated.
So it's a whole process.
It is.
It's not just like, boom, you're president.
Right. It takes a few months.
Interesting.
So how did we get this system?
Yeah, like why?
Well, the founding fathers,
Okay.
they couldn't agree on how to elect the president.
Really?
Yeah, some of them wanted a popular vote. Some of them wanted Congress to choose.
Oh, wow.
And so they compromised on the Electoral College.
So it was like a compromise.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay, and what are some of the criticisms of it?
Well, one of the biggest criticisms
Yeah.
is that a candidate can win the presidency without winning the popular vote.
Right, like in 2000 with Bush.
Exactly. And in 2016 with Trump,
Right.
both of those candidates won the Electoral College,
But not the popular vote.
but not the popular vote.
So why do people like the Electoral College then?
Well, some people argue that it protects smaller states
Oh, I see.
and prevents a few large states from deciding everything.
So, like, California and Texas can't just decide for everyone.
Exactly.
But doesn't that mean that the majority doesn't always win?
That's the argument against it.
Right.
People say it undermines the will of the majority
Yeah.
and gives too much power to swing states.
So, like, Florida and Ohio.
Yeah, those kinds of states.
Interesting.
And you know what's really interesting?
Right.
64% of Americans
Wow.
would prefer a popular vote system.
Really?
Yeah, according to Pew Research.
That's a lot of people.
It is.
So can we change it?
Well, There have been attempts
to change it.
to change or abolish the Electoral College.
Uh,
Over 1,000 proposals, actually.
wow, 1,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But why haven't they worked?
Well, amending the Constitution is really hard.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
It requires a supermajority vote in Congress
Right.
and then ratification by 3/4 of the states.
So it's like a really high bar.
It is.
Huh.
But there's this thing called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact,
Okay.
which is an effort to bypass the Constitution.
Oh, how does that work?
Basically, states pledge their electors to the national popular vote winner.
So even if their state votes for someone else?
Their electors would still go to whoever won the popular vote nationwide.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like a workaround.
Exactly.
Okay, so hold on.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in.
It is a lot.
You need to like unpack this a little bit.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so before we do that, let's give our listeners a chance to like...
To digest everything,
Yeah, exactly.
because we just threw a lot of information at them.
We did.
This is like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the Electoral College
It is, yeah.
and how it impacts elections.
So much more to explore.
There is.
Yeah.
All right, so before the break, we were about to uncover this National Popular Vote Interstate Compact.
Right. It sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah, like it could change everything.
Exactly.
So how does it work? Well, it's basically like states are making a deal, you know?
Okay.
They're saying, hey, we think the popular vote should determine who wins, even if it means like,
Even if their state votes for someone else,
oh, wow.
they're still going to give their electoral votes to the national popular vote winner?
So it's like they're putting the national voice first.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Like, they really believe that the president should represent most Americans,
Yeah.
regardless of where they live.
Right. Exactly.
So how many states have actually signed on to this?
Well, as of today,
Yeah.
17 states and D.C. have joined.
Okay.
And that represents 209 electoral votes.
So they're getting close to that magic number,
They're getting closer to 270.
but not quite there yet.
Not yet, no.
So this could really change things up
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
if it gets enough support.
Imagine if someone wins the popular vote by like a landslide,
Yeah.
but they lose the Electoral College.
Oh, wow.
This compact could actually flip the results.
So the person who got the most votes nationwide would actually become president.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
It really makes you think about the future of the Electoral College.
It does.
Like, could this compact make it obsolete?
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah,
It's a really interesting development to keep an eye on.
for sure.
It shows that we're still debating,
Yeah,
the best way to choose a president.
right. Like, who really represents the people? So, okay, let's bring it back to our listeners for a second.
Okay.
What are like the main takeaways from all of this?
Well, first of all, the president is chosen by the Electoral College.
Right,
Not just by how many people vote for them.
right.
And this winner-takes-all system.
Yeah,
It means that some states have more power than others.
right. Like we were talking about California
Exactly.
and Texas.
Yeah, those big states.
So this system, obviously, it has its fans and its critics.
Definitely.
Some people think it protects the smaller states
Yeah.
and makes sure things are balanced regionally.
Uh-huh.
But others think it goes against the whole one person, one vote idea.
Right. Because someone could win the election without winning the most votes.
Exactly.
And we've seen that happen a couple of times.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
And changing it. Well, it's not easy.
No, it sounds pretty complicated.
Amending the Constitution is a big deal.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight.
But hey, there are other ways to change things up.
Like this compact,
Exactly. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact.
it's like a workaround.
Yeah, kinda.
So it's important to remember that the Electoral College isn't just some, like, theory.
Right.
It affects everything.
It affects who runs for president
How people vote.
and ultimately who becomes the most powerful person in the country.
Exactly.
It's a system that has shaped our history.
And it's still being debated today.
For sure.
So knowing how it works is really important.
It is. It helps you understand how our democracy works
Exactly.
and how you can be a part of it.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on all this?
That's a good question.
Knowing how it works, do you think it's fair?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how you define fairness
Okay.
and how you think our democracy should work.
Right. Like, should the majority always rule?
Or should we make sure all areas of the country have a voice?
Even if that means sometimes the person with the most votes doesn't win.
It's a complicated issue with no easy answers,
Definitely.
but talking about it is important.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do here.
Exactly. We're just trying to get people thinking.
So we encourage everyone listening to keep exploring this topic.
Yeah, look into those times when the Electoral College went against the popular vote.
Right.
Read about the arguments for and against changing it.
Talk to people who have different opinions than you.
Exactly. Get those conversations going.
Because that's what's great about a deep dive like this.
It's not about giving you all the answers.
It's about sparking curiosity.
Making you think critically.
And helping you form your own opinions.
About this complex system that shapes our nation.
Well said. And on that note.
Well said.
And on that note, we want to leave you with something to ponder.
Okay.
As you continue to learn about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Knowing how the system works, do you think it's fair?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really comes down to, like, what do we even mean by fair, And how do we want our democracy to actually work in the future?
Yeah, like, do we want to make sure the majority always gets their way?
Right, or should we be more focused on making sure all parts of the country,
all those different areas.
Yeah, all those different regions have a say in who becomes president.
Even if it means sometimes the person with the most votes doesn't win.
Exactly. It's a tough question.
It is.
And there's no easy answer.
No, but these are the kinds of conversations we need to be having.
Absolutely.
It's not just about, like, complaining about the system.
Right, it's about understanding it.
Yeah, and then figuring out how to make it better.
Exactly.
So as we head into future elections, remember that the Electoral College, it's not just some, like, history lesson.
Right.
This is a system that's still alive and kicking.
It affects everything.
Right. It shapes how campaigns are run.
How people vote.
And who ultimately ends up in the White House.
So stay informed.
Yeah, stay informed.
Stay engaged.
Stay engaged.
And most importantly, stay curious.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks.
So that's it for this deep dive into the Electoral College.
It's been a journey.
It has.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was great having you here.
Yeah.
We hope you learned something new.
And that you'll keep learning.
Exactly. Until next time, keep diving deep.